Okay. Settide Newsletter 2. When taking photos, quality, then quantity. I want to share with you how taking good quality photos for photogrammetry is often better than just trying to take as many as you can. Having 1,000 photos you don't use is better than 100 photos you wish you had. I'm going to show and share you my general approach for taking photos with most of my photogrammetry projects. Then later on, I'll share an example of some of my common experiences with projects involving underwater coral reef habitats. With this general approach for taking good quality photos for photogrammetry, the benefits are less headaches when processing the photos into 3D models and imagery, feel confident knowing the time and effort you spent will be worth it, lets you focus on the important stuff like delivering high quality data and visuals for your projects. So here's my general approach, step by step. Step 1. Understand that photos for photogrammetry are, usually, not the same as for photography. For a long time I would tell people, by no means am I a professional photographer, and there's still a lot I do not know about cameras. And part of this is true, but the other part is extremely misleading. The truth is, there exists a lot about cameras that I do not know. But I have come to embrace this as a learning experience rather than a shortcoming. The misleading part is that you need to be a professional or very good photographer to take photos for photogrammetry. Not necessarily, but to take photos for photogrammetry, you need to learn some fundamentals of cameras and about taking good quality photos. Compared to general photography, you are shooting photos in a very different way. Photographers have their unique perspectives and styles on taking photos that shape their content into their own form of art. Maybe they blur the background to focus on the object in the front and center of the photo. Maybe they shoot at a wide angle to capture a large sunset on a beach, while color editing to bring out the sun rays and blend the sand and water together. Whatever it is that photographers do, it is generally a different approach than what is done for photogrammetry, but many of the same fundamentals. For photogrammetry, we are aiming to shoot high quality photos while also capturing as much of the entire area or object that we wish to reconstruct in 3D or into a 2D image. This means that we want each individual photo to follow these guidelines. 1. The object or area of interest to be in focus. 2. Have proper lighting and color. 3. Good overlap from photo to photo and overall coverage from all photos. 4. No monochromatic areas as the main interest of the photo, like large areas of a single color such as a white wall inside. 5. Minimizing capturing objects in motion, trees swaying, cars moving, people walking, and so on. 6. Avoid reflectance from things like glass, transparent plastic, or direct lighting onto metallic surfaces. Now, there are many things embedded within these guidelines that could be expounded on, but the main thing is that shooting for photogrammetry is much different than what a professional photographer may shoot for. Step 2. Know my equipment and always test things out. Here's a story. Once upon a time, I went to scuba dive for a project at a coral reef habitat site location we were monitoring for restoration work. It was a great day. I was excited to be in the water and ready to take photos. I rolled out of the boat, dove down to our first site. While going down, I often take test photos. I paused to check out my photos to only see them all black. I kind of messed with the settings and wondering if my camera screen display settings were off or if the exposure was too low. No. I had forgotten to remove the camera lens cap when the camera inside the camera housing unit. I couldn't believe it. We had to ascend, go back up to the surface, return to the boat, dry off the camera housing, and remove the lens cap, then put everything back together. After apologizing 100 times to my team and boat captain, I got back in the water and took underwater photos right at the surface to check the photo quality. Then we dove back down and took a few more at the reef site to further check, adjusted my settings accordingly, and reshot that first site. Over time, this will become easier with experience, hopefully not repeating what I did. But before every project, I review my equipment, such as my camera and lenses that I may need. I go over the settings that may be best for that situation and save them as presets in the camera. Many cameras can do this now. But no matter what project I am doing or where I am shooting, I always take test shots to evaluate things like color balance, lighting, and the overall quality to potentially adjust camera settings for what I am doing. For underwater coral reefs, I do this for each dive, even in the same day, because lighting changes with depth, time of day, cloud cover, tide and turbidity, and so on. When using brand new equipment, I always test out on land at my desk or home many times with different objects. Then I test outside, then maybe again somewhere else. Then if I'm doing underwater, I go to a shallow spot where I can walk and test it out there. Then a deeper spot and test it. Then finally go to the site for the project and test, if possible, right before the real thing. Always know your equipment and test things out. A great phrase I learned in Brazil was "É melhor para prevenir do que remediar." Sorry to those who speak better Portuguese if this is not quite correct. But meaning, it is better to prevent any issues than to remediate or fix later on. Step 3. Slow and steady, very steady. When I test things out, I always try to move at a slow and steady pace. This starts before I even take photos. I assess the area or object I'm photographing, and I move around it as if I am photographing it, but no camera, no taking photos. I just move around it and look. I look for distinct areas of concern like harsh lighting changes, possible reflectance or mirroring, or other things that may throw off my photos, like changes in depth when scuba diving. Yes, even when scuba diving, which I always plan in my dive plan for the extra time to. I will swim around the general area, kind of taking a lap, and we will photograph to get a lay of the land and to see where any potential areas or objects I may need to adjust for, especially the first time visiting that site. Large turtle holes or caves, small flat corals, then all of a sudden this big 3-meter, 10-foot tall coral in the middle of the site, be ready for it. Then, when I take photos, I try to use techniques that can help me remain slow and steady. When doing close-range photogrammetry, like photographing a statue or a picnic table with artistic graffiti, I try to move one step at a time around the object. Maybe a small distance between each spacing, half a meter or less, about a foot, and move. Hold still, take a calm breath out, and shoot. And then I repeat. Things like tucking in my elbows into my stomach or ribs to keep the camera steady can help. But in the end, it's where the camera is positioned that matters. If I need to move around a tree stump that is in the way, I try to position my body so I can reach around with the camera to maintain its line of positioning while holding still. It may feel awkward, but it's only for a second, and all worth it for the right shot. For underwater, here are some general tips. For scuba, maintain good buoyancy. For scuba and snorkeling, imagine that the camera is on a swivel, meaning if you get bumped by the current or some surface movement when snorkeling, keep the camera in its line of positioning. You sway left to right, but keep the camera in its path. Breathe calm and swim at a walking pace. If scuba diving, how much air you have is everything. So be calm and move at a slower and comfortable pace. If the current picks up, especially head on for a few seconds, wait it out, or kick just enough to keep a decent position or slowly moving forward. When the current returns behind you and pushes you forward, use it. You may not even kick at all and let it carry you while you shoot photos. Use the environment to your advantage by working with it as best as you can. If shooting a reef site mostly for creating an orthomosaic or digital elevation model image, then keep the camera facing downwards and avoid tilting it upwards or swaying it from side to side. Keep it as still as possible and facing down. If you swim and meet a large boulder or coral more than a meter or so tall, then move the camera along the contour, but return it to the flat top-down position. Drones are a great example of this, allowing us to shoot large areas on land like fields or urban areas, and they capture them pretty well with even some 3D topography. If you think you are moving too slow, you're probably going at the right pace. How many photos? Focus on the quality, and the quantity will come. In summary, and from my experience working on a variety of projects, ranging from using drones to close range to underwater, there are three main thoughts I have for those who ask, how many photos should I take? 1. Focus on taking good quality photos before counting the number of photos. 100 good quality photos would be more of use than 1,000 poor quality photos with blurriness, harsh lighting, and so on. For underwater photogrammetry, it's almost impossible to predict how many photos you take because you're dealing with a lot of environmental issues like changing water clarity, a strong current and tide shifts, lighting and shadows, color changes due to depth, and much more. 3. You can never take too many photos. We have the technology available today that is capable of taking more photos than you need. Camera cards are more affordable than ever with large storage capacities. Computer hard drive or external hard drive space is there for having those large projects. If you think you took too many photos, you probably took just the right amount. Focus on taking good quality photos for your project, and having the right number of photos will follow. Have fun taking photos, building awesome 3D models and imagery, and as always, thanks for listening. Now go do something cool with photogrammetry today.